Chat series. This week we are interviewing authors from The Mom and Me, the soon-to-be released anthology, stories of practical advice and stories and practical advice from moms who have survived parenting. So we're gearing up for our launch on the 5th. So make sure you put that on your calendars and plan to join us for all that excitement. And this evening, we have a very special guest. Her name is Miss Larvetricus Harris. She wrote a very interesting chapter in the book titled Enough with the Church. Welcome to the broadcast, Larvetricus.
Thank you.
Yeah, so excited to talk to you about this chapter here. It just tickled me so when I was reading it. And so we are going to, well, first, let me ask you this. Why did you agree to be a part of The Mom and Me Volume 2?
It was an interesting topic, and me being the type of person I am that really had a kind of a rocky childhood coming up without a mother. I've always been taught to set that example of what a mother can and could be. So when you sent it out the second time, and it just piqued my interest, and I was like, I just got to do it. I just got to do it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I'm so happy that you said yes. I just want to make sure that, make sure that we're really okay, because I don't see us. Do you see us? Okay, there we go. Okay, we're good. All is well. So I'm just so happy that you joined us for this project, and that you, so why the topic, Enough of the Church? Like, why did you want to write about this? Without going into too much detail, but just why did you want to talk about this?
Because that's my lane. I've been in church practically all my life, and just seeing different things go on in the church when it comes to being a leader and dealing with your children. So it's just kind of like this something got to change.
Yes, yes. Well, you told the people. Let me share some of what she wrote, you guys. So when you opened your chapter, I'm not going to start at the very beginning. They buy a book to do that. But you said it is a notion that pastors' children are the absolute worst, and they have the tendency to be the hell raisers that continue to stir up the most chaos in the church. The pastor's kid, PKs as we call them, have the task of being at most, if not all, church services, being at most, if not all, church services because they are towed around by the leading parents. Pastors' children do not have much of a social life outside of the four walls of the church building. Most of their time consists of just being in the church house and only being friends with the other kids in the church. I've definitely seen this.
Yes.
When mischief and mayhem is heard, they always find the troubled children. And more than likely, the ringleader is that one child who is supposed to be the example to other little children. Why is this an issue? Because of who their parents are. They should just know better. I can hear it even now, and I could see when I was reading it. Wow, that's Pastor such and such a son or daughter acting like that. Now, you know they know better. What is even more thrilling to me is now that my child has been labeled as an unfit church kid, I am no longer a great mother because I do not know how to control my children when they are being children. Not only is a child constantly put under a microscope in the way that they act, but there is another silent mandate that children of pastors and leaders must be involved in every activity for young people sponsored by the church. When the children should be outside playing, involved in sports, or just around the neighborhood friends, they are locked into the commitment of youth choir, children's church, vacation Bible school, and the list goes on.
Yes.
Why? The parents leave them without any option. So, Pastor V, let's talk about this.
Yes.
So when I was reading that, I just chuckled because it's like because I grew up in the church too, and I saw that, and I heard, those conversations about the PKs, and and hung out with some of the PKs kids and heard what they had to say about it, and so it just tickled me so. And so what got you to the point where you were saying enough with the church, and let people know exactly what you mean by that so the saints don't pass out.
I'm pretty sure some of them already on their seat like, you got the nerve. but it's not so much enough of God, just enough of the activities that we make
Right.
children do inside the building. And there's nothing
Hmm.
wrong with children's church. There's nothing wrong with children's Sunday school and all the other activities that take place within the church. Please don't get me wrong with that.
Yeah.
But we are at a pinnacle sometimes, even with my own children. If you need a role fulfilled, it's easy for me to grab my child and say, I need you to usher
Hmm.
today. I need you to take up offering. I need you to pray.
Yeah.
We'll even try to make them preach if they can preach.
Oh.
It's whatever you need them to do is kind of like my
Hmm.
kids always available based off me always been available and in the place of worship. And when I say enough of the churches, it just gets to a point where sometimes we just have to allow our kids just to be kids and not take
Hmm.
away from their relationship with God, but they got to find, sometimes we just got to give them room to find their own place.
Yeah. I think that's so important. Because I'm to that parent who every single Sunday we was at the church, got
Yes.
Bible study on Wednesday. That's about where we stopped though. But it definitely every Sunday, every Wednesday. And so my kids grew up with that. When most of the time, half the time they probably didn't even want to go, but it was just they didn't have a choice. And
Yes.
so I can just so relate to that. And I grew up the same way too. My mom, we went to church. Me and my cousins, we went to church every Sunday. And so I just think it's so good that you're highlighting this, because perhaps it'll give people the just some insight to perhaps do things a little bit differently.
Yes, ma'am.
So then you talked about when you had, when going back, you wrote about when you first had kids and all of that. And so you said, I did not have any experience in raising children, and I had no idea how to raise children in church. But one thing I did know was that I would do it differently from what I had seen. I just have to get through everyone trying to enlighten me and what it means to be a mother in the church. Not only am I a mother in the church, I have the title as a pastor. That changes all the rules of the game. The first remarks I heard from women in the church were, make sure you raise them in the way to go, and
Hmm.
make sure you keep them in church.
Hmm. Yes.
Oh, yeah. Talk about that. Go ahead.
It's just funny you said that because it was a time where everybody wants you to raise your children based off what they think or how you should raise them based off their own
Yep.
personal perspective. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes when you don't do it just like they want you to do it, you're wrong. And
Yeah.
just growing up, I would hear it often, oh, they not doing that right. I told you, child, something wrong with that family. They should have
Oh
that
my
child in
God.
church. You would just hear it based off,
Yeah.
and don't be a title leader that makes it even worse.
Mm-hmm.
Because they
Yeah.
say if you if you don't rule your home, you're not fit for the kingdom of God. So it
Oh
is so
gosh.
oh yeah, we might as
Mm-hmm.
well go there. So
Yeah.
it's just all this stuff you would hear based off really trying to allow your children to be children. And sometimes
Mhm.
people just want you to raise your kids how they want you to raise their kids, not how God gave you to raise your own kids.
Ooh, that's a word right there. We're gonna talk about what they kids doing behind the scenes.
Right.
I seen that
Yes.
too.
Yes.
Look, we have all fallen short, and that's what people need to understand when they go mm, judging folks. Judging folks.
Right, right.
Oh my gosh, this is good. So you said, I now understand that it is not all about the church building and all the activities they're in, but the importance of making sure they build their own personal relationship with God. And
Yes.
so how have you been able to, or once you came to this realization, what were some of the things that you put in place in order to begin to shift things in your household?
I think for me was actually teaching my kids how to pray and how
Mm,
to trust God. A lot of times we depend on the Sunday school teacher to do that,
mm-hmm,
depend
mm-hmm,
on other leaders within the church to do that. But I had to take a step back and really take an inventory of my home and say, am I really leading by example, by really teaching my kids, literally going in the room with them, getting them out of bed, getting down on our knees together, and allowing
Wow.
them to lead in prayer, even though sometimes their prayers just don't make sense, but allowing them to build that relationship for themselves with God the best way they see fit, while I'm guiding them to trust God more and to depend on Him a lot more than I ever have.
Wow. That's good. That's really good. Yeah. And so the next part I put a little note. I said, I like this.
Okay.
That I have the tendency at times to be more to my children than they need me to be. My sons need mom and nothing more.
Yes.
And I like that because, I know as a mom, we're always trying to fix things. And
Yes.
sometimes that's not even what they need us to do or who they need us to be. Like you said, they just need us to be mom. And sometimes that's just listening. And so we need to figure out that balance too, because we just always want to fix it for them. And then,
Right.
in our fixing, we can be breaking,
That's so true. That's good. That's real good.
right?
Yes.
Yeah, we can. So you said you came to that. So you realized that your sons needed you to be mom and nothing more. And so I just think that's really good. He said, I'm so glad that my children only expect me to be mom, nothing more, nothing less. They do not care about the title before my name, nor the weight of the position. So instead of trying to fix and maneuver around the expectations of others, I decided to live by something I have already been delivered from, and that is people.
Yes, ma'am.
Man,
Yes.
talk about what that's like when you finally get delivered from people.
And
Say,
when
tell us what that means.
it's when you get to a point of you're not consumed with the thoughts of others. It's when you get to that point you can care less of what people really think about you and how they perceive
Yeah.
you. And you
Mhm.
really, to me, is so much freedom in that, because sometimes we are in bondage by what other people think about us and how they
Yeah.
feel about us. And we not really totally living for God because we're so much
Mhm.
worried. Did I do that right? Do I look good? Do I look the part? And it's just enough of that. Just be who
Yeah.
God calls you to be, and you will find so much freedom when you are delivered from the people that will always have something to say on how you should live for God.
Preach. Preach. There is just so much freedom in that.
Yes,
I've experienced that, and it's like you don't realize it while you are like so in the thick of it. But
yes.
once you take that step back and you say, "Wait a minute," you
Enough is
know,
enough. Yes.
once that light bulb goes off, man.
Yeah.
And we ain't talking about freedom as in free, free to go sin, but it's
Right.
just a realization of like, who are we living for?
It's almost like a weight being lifted off you of the
Mhm.
expectations of other people.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So you said, why enough? The standard of church has been so demanding that the children have never been able to engage in a social life. I can only imagine that after the return of the grades from a test, the teachers hear, "Thank you, Jesus," as a response. When the children are supposed to be enjoying life, they are burdened down with the affairs of the church. So
Yes.
tell me what was it like for your children after you came to the realization that because I'm thinking once you got free, they got a little free too.
they wanted they just got a little too free for a minute. But also what really switched the game reality was COVID-19. That
Mm,
really played a big
yeah,
part of it when the church became limited in who can actually go. And because I
yeah,
was one of the leaders within the church, me and my husband was mindful of how we brought the kids based off just everything that was going on. But that
mhm,
opened up a new door because it made us realize that, hey, it's okay for them to stay
yeah,
home and
yeah,
sleep just as long as you're doing what you're supposed to do when you're supposed to do it. And that
exactly.
within that, it was just a game changer. It was a
Said
total
yes.
game changer.
Yeah, man, I think COVID was a game changer for a lot of people in that
Yes,
aspect.
yes,
And I think it gave people, leaders, even the church goers, a breather, like a chance yeah, just come out from all of that and focus, like you said, on what God really was calling us or is calling us to do. Because I think sometimes we get so caught up in the routine
Yes.
of church activities and everything, and it's like it becomes this systematic type thing.
Yeah.
And I think, that there were, God is strategic. I think there was a lot of good that came from this break.
A lot, a whole lot, a whole lot. Even so
Yeah.
much to the point where you didn't so much focus on the negative, but you just kind
Mhm.
of took a step back and said, okay, this is my chance to reset and get myself
Yeah.
together and see what God really wants me to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you said with what I had coming up in the church, I had to find a more excellent way for me and my household. I began to put pencil to paper and plan out how I was to change my thought process. I refused to raise my children in the church the way I came up in those walls. And so you talking about you broke out the pen and the paper, and so you actually started to plan things out. So like, what did that look like for you?
It's just putting
And your family.
everything, just I'm a writer. My thoughts, I love to write down my thoughts.
Wait a minute, say that again.
I love to write down my thoughts.
No, the other part.
I am a writer.
Okay, continue.
Okay, got you. I just like writing down my thoughts because sometimes
Mhm.
when I go back and read it, it makes me, I kind of can see things from another perspective because I was always
Yeah.
taught when you write it down, go back and read it like you're a reader and you begin to
Mm,
think a little bit differently. So I began just to make a plan. The plan doesn't always go the way that I want it to go, but it's not because I did
yeah.
not plan. And I just began to look at things a whole lot differently and begin to list all the things that I did in
Mhm.
church and outside of church and begin
Mm.
to list all the things that my children did. And then I kind of compared the list and I found out my kids was coming up short based off my obligation.
Wow.
And I had to make some
Wow.
changes because reality is my home is my first priority and
Yeah.
they're lacking while yet I'm fulfilling other obligations at the end of the day really doesn't matter.
Right. Mm. That's good stuff right there. Wow. Yeah, all that you wrote it down. And I can imagine like looking at that because sometimes we don't take the time to do that. But writing that list out and saying, wow.
Yeah.
But just imagine if you hadn't taken the time to slow down in order to do that.
Yes.
Then your kids continue to come up short. And maybe, we move along doing the best we can and thinking that we're doing it right. But you have one of those moments where you get the time to sit down and do that. And it really is an eye opener. So that's really
Yeah.
cool that you did that.
Yes, ma'am.
I know your kids are happy.
They are.
Oh, that is so, so good. Let's see. And so this is all I'm reading. You have to go buy the book to read your chapter because your chapter was so good. Everything that I do within the church, I took the focus off the building and the legalism inside, and I simply teach my children the value of having a personal relationship with God for themselves.
Yeah.
And I just think that that is so important. And I think sometimes we might miss the mark on that um, because we're trying to do so much other stuff.
Yeah.
Like I said, whole systematic thing.
Yes.
That we lose sight of that. And so how have your children responded to that?
And it's so funny when I look at their response, it's almost the same because at the beginning of the day, they really did not care about the titles. My children
Mhm.
have always been able to voice their opinion per se.
Right.
Because I have African American boys and just a lot of issues dealing with, black boys, our black and brown boys being full of anger.
Mhm.
I made up in my mind that I'm going to allow them to express themselves as long as they come at me correctly. They can
Mhm.
express to me and disagree with me,
Yeah.
and we have a conversation about it. And it's just not they won't get that response, be I'm mom because I said so. But they will
Right.
get a genuine conversation and the questions, why do you feel that way? What can I do to make you feel better in that sense? Not saying it always go their way because there's some things I'm like, no, I'm the
Mhm.
parent and you're the child. we're going to do this
Right.
because of, but they have the understanding that they're able to voice their opinion, they're able to express themselves. And I think it's good for them because it teaches them responsibility and how to communicate effectively and efficiently.
Yes. And that's huge, that
Mhm.
communicating effectively, because I think that's something that's really, really missing
Yeah.
in a lot of kids today, and why we have, so much violence, because they don't know how to communicate effectively. So kudos to you on that. So what advice, like what's one or two pieces of advice that you would give, pertaining to this subject, to the saints?
It's actually getting to know your children for who they are. And
Hmm.
that's something that I had to do. Sometimes we put our kids in one bowl, so to speak, and treat them the same
Yeah.
way. But my kids are totally different. They look at things totally
Mhm.
different. They have different views. And as a parent, as a mom, I had to take the time and humble myself, get over
Mhm.
myself, and really listen to them at their age and what they think about things. And as I
Yeah.
began to listen, it changed my perspective because some of the things that they shared with me, I didn't realize they harbored those type of feelings on the inside. But when I
Wow.
gave them a place to speak and a safe place to
Safe
speak,
place.
and
Hmm.
they opened up, and I call them kitchen table talks because we do a lot of kitchen
Hmm.
table talks, and I tell them at the kitchen table,
Nice.
as long as you come correctly, you can say what you want, and there's no regards when we walk away from this table. And they
Wow.
have taken that opportunity. Even now, when they really want to talk about something, they'll say, "Mom, let's do lunch." And I know what
Mm.
they usually mean. They want to tell me something that
Yeah.
they will be able to walk away and be like, "Yeah, I got that
Yeah.
off my chest," and she ain't gonna say nothing. But
Mhm.
but it's
Yeah.
just giving that advice. Take the time to really know your kids, because just because they came from you don't mean you really actually know them. And just
That's so
sometimes we
true.
assume things about our children, and that's really not how they feel. So really taking the
Hmm.
time to just connect with the people around you and really get to know the people for who they are, not based off who you want them to be.
Yeah. I tell you, I learned the most about my children after they were grown.
Yeah.
Because they're going to tell you, when your children grow up,
Yes.
they can tell you what they thought about everything you did and said. And that's because, like you said, I gave my children the space to do that. But
Yes.
it's just funny now that they're grown and we'll be having conversations, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And I really found out some stuff when my son decided to write his own book. I was
Ah.
like, told my woman, I was like, I feel like I just didn't even know you at all.
Right.
Not in a bad way,
Right.
but but they have feelings. They went through things, and it's like a lot of times, even though we had that policy, that you can talk to me about
Yes.
anything, there were certainly a lot of things that they did not come
Yes.
to me with, and
Yes.
you know, for whatever reason, that's just the teenage thing, that they're not going to talk to you about everything.
Yes.
Over the years, I've in mentoring kids, I've had parents to say, oh, my kid tells me everything.
No, they
I'm
don't.
like, look, I have mentoring sessions. They're not telling you everything.
Not at all.
Not
Not
at all.
at
But
all.
some people would just swear me down, you
Mm.
know, oh, we're so close. They tell me everything. I'm like, no, they don't. No, they don't.
And I think that comes from also being connected to other great people in our lives that my kids are able to go to. And because I realize
Yes.
my boys aren't going to share every single thing with
No.
me, but there are
Yeah.
people in their lives, like their godparents, that they know they can go to and be like, "Hey, mom,
Hmm.
dad, I need to talk because mom is tripping." So
Yes.
it's having that space.
Yes. Yes. And I think you even mentioned this too, is like, even though it's something that you've already said, if they hear it from another person, it's
Yes.
like it's the best idea since
Like,
sliced bread, you
go.
know?
And you sitting there like, I said that
I
30
said that.
times.
But
Yeah.
sometimes they can't hear it from you because you're mom. So
Yeah.
that's good. So tell people where they can purchase a copy of the book from you, your supporters. How can they purchase a copy of the book from you?
they can go to the Harris Tag Team website, and all the books are listed there.
Mhm.
Just that's my landing page, Harris Tag Team, and you can get the book, purchase the book, or if you know me, you can contact me directly. I have a marketing director, Aisha Jordan. I also, my my self-given manager, Nathaniel Harris. You know, you can reach out to them, and yeah, and you
That's
can
awesome.
be able to purchase the book.
So it's harristagteam.com,
Yes,
right?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. Awesome. So you guys make sure you support her. Her chapter is amazing. Enough of the church, something that we really need to be talking about. It's a very great topic. And so let's see, what advice would you give to an aspiring writer? So we always want to give some good advice to aspiring writers.
My advice is just take that risk. It's kind
Mhm.
of like you told me when I wrote my first book, when I just got stuck and I couldn't figure
Yeah.
out how to put words together. You said just write your thoughts and let you do the rest.
Mhm.
And hey, my thing is Kimberly is an awesome publisher, author. So just if you hook
Thank
up
you.
with her, she will guide you through it. Because I know a lot of people, sometimes you got that fear. What do I
Mhm.
write? How do I write it? I don't know how to
Mhm.
put it on paper. I don't know how to form it. My thing is just write your thoughts like you're writing a letter to yourself. And when
That's
you do
good.
that, then give it to you and you'll make it into a book.
Yes, we will massage that thing and make it look all pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always tell people nothing happens until you write.
Yes.
People are like, well, how am I going to publish it? Well, how am I going to get it in the bookstore? Well, it's like, and you haven't put a word on the paper yet.
Right, right, right.
Right. We'll
Just
figure all
right.
that other stuff out just right. So
Right.
that's awesome. I have enjoyed our conversation. I can't wait for people to get the book and read your chapter,
Yes, ma'am.
open up even more dialogue,
Yes.
and you do your own lives and talk more about this subject because I think it's really something that's going to set folks free,
Yeah. Yes.
in a good way, And some people's children need for their parents to read this chapter.
Yes.
Awesome. And so thank you so much for being my special guest on tonight. You've been amazing.
Thank you for
And to
having me.
our viewing audience, thank you guys for joining us again for another episode of the LPE Author Chat with our amazing authors from The Mom and Me Volume 2, which is going to launch on the 5th. We're so close. We're just days away now.
Yes.
So super excited about that. And if you are thinking about writing your own book, head on over to www.laboopublishing.com and connect with us there. Thank you guys and have a good night. See you soon.
Good night.